Hello, my darlings, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new, please come in and make yourself at home. My name is Patty Cake. Welcome to Patty Cake Games, and we're finally getting round to it, guys. The second episode of Settling the Scores. And with me is my friend Dan. Dan, how are you?
I'm doing great, Patrick. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. We haven't seen each other in a while. Makes me sad.
Yes, me too.
Well, in case you guys are tuning in for the very first time, Dan and I are both kind of a little bit of music nerds. We both were in band, and we were band geeks, and we are still complete music nerds. And he is usually the first person that I reach out to when I hear something, and I'm just like, oh my god, you have to hear this, Dan. This is an amazing piece of music. Or if I see like a meme and I get it because I know how to read music, I'll send it to Dan because I know he'll get it too.
Yep. I do the same.
Yeah, so we decided I wanted to try doing a music reaction show with Dan, and I am a purveyor of video game music, and Dan is a lover of film scores and series scores. So we figure if we brought that together, that might be a fun thing. I bring something from games, he brings something from films, we talk about it, we listen to it, we discuss it in our nerdy musical fashion, and that's the show. So anyway, before we start, if you look down below the video, click on like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel. And if you want to be super thorough, you can ring the notification bell. That lets you know when new videos get posted to the channel. And you can also join the Discord by looking down in the description of the video. We have a pretty awesome community. Dan's there as well, though he's not on Discord very much. But you can come and chat with either of us. And there's also memberships. So if you want to support the channel even more, there's 2 tiers of memberships. Just click the join button underneath, and you can read all about it. There's all kinds of extra perks you get. All right, now that all that's out of the way, let's get started. So our theme, Dan. I like the fact that this theme can be interpreted in so many different ways. So our theme tonight, guys, is doing a lot with a little. So that can be, based on instrumentation. That can be based on whether the melody is simple or complex. It can be anything. So I like when themes are completely open-ended. So I'm curious because I'm not familiar. I did see where it came from, but I'm not familiar with the score of that series. So I'm really excited to hear your song, and I'm wondering how it fits that theme.
Okay. This is from a 1997 anime called Ghost in the Shell. This is the opening intro into the film. This is a very impressive film if you've never seen it. We're talking about cyborgs, assassins, but the core theme of the film seems to be a lot about if you have lost so much of your physical body, how much of you is still human? That makes sense.
Well, okay. It's like the what's that? The ship conundrum. Is it Achilles? Achilles' ship?
Yeah.
If every part of it has been replaced, is it still Achilles' ship?
Yes, exactly.
So it's a really cool concept, and it fits really well into like cyberpunk type stuff. Like how much of really us is really still human when almost everything of us has been replaced. Yeah,
exactly.
It's very cool.
And it is this particular piece. I think fits the theme quite perfectly because while I did not break down like an instrumentation. It sounds literally when you listen to it that it is vocal, as in like a choir, percussion, and some synthesizers to kind of like make it a little bit more moody than it already is. But it is always something that every time I hear it, and I keep it like on my regular playlist, so I'll be driving around or something, and all of a sudden this piece comes on, and I just kind of like into a little, kind of like a Zen moment kind of thing. There are times in the piece, and it's almost like I know exactly where it's going to happen, and when it does, I feel this rush of endorphins that just kind of like radiates out, and I don't know where it came from,
Nice.
rather. But it kind of hits on a weird little emotional undercurrent kind of thing where it just kind of like vibes with you. You know, I'm like, wow, it's kind of neat.
Well, make sure when we get to that point you point it out, because I'm
Okay.
curious if it affects me the same way. Well, let's
Cool.
give it a listen. I'm curious now.
All right, let's go.
So this is Chant I, Making of Cyborg by Kenji Kawai from the Ghost in the Shell soundtrack. Okay, just for I have to pause it for a second. That addition of the stereo effects with the drums,
Yep.
that is so cool. If you're watching this at home, you need to put on some headphones so that you can hear the way the drums switch between your ears. It is a really neat effect. Okay,
Yep.
continue.
Yep.
Let me back it up just a little bit.
There's something about that one little spot right there where the voice kind of does that little modulation.
Uh-huh.
That I can feel that just going right up and down my back. I don't know why, but it just does.
No, I love that. I love that. I love the chords the choir is singing are so interesting. They flow in a logical pattern, but they also take you by surprise. You don't expect them to go to the places that they go, and it makes it almost sound very tribal.
It does,
Getting,
and it's
that
weird
sort of
because
tribal
vibe. I've done a little research in it, and it doesn't help that I don't understand Japanese, of course, but I've read some conflicting things where some people say that this is like an old wedding chant, and then there are others that say Kawai himself actually wrote the chant. So I don't know exactly how this works out, but it's interesting because in the one that says it's an old wedding chant, apparently it's they say it's a very old form of Japanese.
Interesting.
So, yeah, and I guess what makes it kind of fun and mysterious is that there's conflicting stories on what this thing is. So it kind of makes it a little mysterious in a weird way. So, I don't know. I always think about that in the back of my head when I'm like, I wonder what it is.
That's cool. It's interesting where they pull inspiration from whenever they do things like this.
Oh, yeah. And see here, you can hear where the synthesizers start to come in.
And they almost have a didgeridoo feel to them, that sort of drone, or maybe like throat singing.
Yes, I had never thought of that. That's great. That's cool.
Oh.
I got it.
And more and more little flourishes are being added in the drums. Like it's like it's building towards something. Like it's almost like it started with just like loose strings, and then the further
Yeah.
it goes, we're pulling them tighter and tighter and tighter. That's kind of
See,
the
and now I'm
feeling it
thinking
gives.
about that. Right, and I'm kind of thinking about that throat singing thing. I had never put that before, and it's just like kind of blowing my mind a little bit. I love that. I love that.
Well, it could be that forget what it was. Oh, Dune. Dune. Like
Yes.
throat singing has become associated with science fiction for me because of the new Dune movie.
Yeah, yeah. And I thought that was such a brilliant application. I loved it.
Oh, I think
Um,
I saw an analogy somewhere that I thought you'd get a kick out of. It's something comparing two different sci-fi movies. I don't remember what the
yeah.
first one was, but they're talking about the Dune franchise. And so the
Uh-huh.
first one, they were like, okay, so this movie took like the commonplace, like everything that was very normal, and it made everyone react to it as if it was completely weird. But Dune takes everything and makes it really weird, but everyone reacts to it like it's completely normal.
Yeah. I mean, that's just the way it is, you know? That's how
I,
everything works in the Imperium. Come on.
I thought that was a fun analogy because then I'm thinking about it, it's like, that makes a lot of sense because, I mean, what sense does it make for a planet to be completely devoid of color and people take
Yeah.
baths in thick black oil for some reason?
Oh, I know. But
It
see,
doesn't make sense.
it doesn't make sense, but that's interesting that you put that out there because I can remember at the very beginning of the first movie when the herald comes by to announce that they're taking over Arrakis,
Hmm.
and there's that one little thing at the end when everything's signed, and the Duke turns to the herald and basically I was like, "Is that it?" And he's like, "Yes, it's done," and that was it. Like they went through all of that just to be able to kind of like all of a sudden it became very matter of fact, like, yeah, it's done. So I don't know, but when you said that, that made me think of that.
All right.
Mhm. Something about that part in the piece always does that to me.
Oh, that's the spot.
Yeah, there's something about it that when the choir hits that kind of weird little, you can hear like
Oh,
it's
that
almost like a
trill,
little,
like they're doing a
yeah,
trill.
it feels like a little wave kind of thing, and then I feel that wave going right up my back.
Interesting.
Weird. Yeah. Mhm.
This part kind of makes me think of the drum solo in "Time" by Pink Floyd,
Mhm.
because the
Oh
it's just
yeah.
it's a steady
Mhm.
beat, but all the drums are playing completely off the rhythm, and it throws everything off. They do that
It throws
in
it
that song.
off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really cool. It's a neat effect. I like that.
Yeah.
Dude, that was really great. Like,
Isn't it great? I love
that's
that piece.
great. And yeah, you're right. That's
Ugh.
perfectly the theme, because that felt so simple and so just devoid. It was very minimalistic, very
Very,
lots of
yeah.
open space, but wow, it worked.
I what I every time I hear it, it's in a weird way. I start picturing like I don't know if you've ever seen like images of those Japanese style homes where it's just rice paper walls
Mm-hmm.
and beautiful deck floors and everything and soft lighting kind of thing, and you might see like overlooking like a garden of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I hear it, my brain kind of goes to that, where it's just this kind of quiet, serene, minimalist kind of image. I don't know how else to
I
describe
can
it.
see the little bamboo water thing tipping
Yeah,
forward.
yeah, just doing that little thing, and it's very, very. I don't know. I hate to use the word this way, but very zen.
No, I get it, and I understand what you
And
mean. It has to do, at least to me, that sort of feeling I get from it has to do with that straight that's constant throughout the
yeah,
entire song. On the downbeat, there's that big bass with a lot of echo. It's almost like a slow
uh-huh.
heartbeat.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's something about the percussion in this piece because it's so sparse in it's kind of the way it's played out. I mean, I guess the way it was written, it's kind of sparse,
Mm-hmm.
but it fills at the same time. It's weird as that sounds, but it gives it a weird rhythm where things are just kind of moving along in a weird way, and then it just seems to accentuate certain parts of the piece.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I love it. It's one of my favorites. But I would definitely, the first time I heard it years ago in a past life, I managed a video store, and I remember this movie came out, and we would put it on the shelves, and we could take movies home and watch it. And I remember putting
Right.
that one in the VCR. Okay, kids, this is going back some. Uh, but I turned it on and started watching it because I was kind of getting into anime at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd seen other things, but this one was just one of those kind of like a tour de force watershed kind of thing where all of a sudden it kind of opened your perspective of what this genre can do, and it helps with that piece. It starts with that piece because the film starts with a very high intense action packed kind of sequence,
Right.
and then all of a sudden it goes into this quiet piece, and it kind of oddly sets trajectory of the story from that point forward.
Well, yeah,
And I
because
can just
I know enough about Ghost in the Shell to know that yes, there is action sequences in it, but ultimately it's not really an action thing. It's more of a psychological drama with
introspective
a lot of
drama.
introspection. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's some deep stuff going on in that movie. And I've always been fascinated by it. But, this particular piece of music is just so deeply associated with that film and that experience that
Yeah.
I think ever since then, it just, like I said, I keep it on my regular playlist. So when it pops on, I'm kind of like, whoa, time for a moment. Let's just take a moment and just kind of chill.
Well, I
So,
like it. I like it a lot, and
I'm
I
glad you
think
did.
that's probably going to be added to my playlists as well because that was
Cool.
very cool.
Neat.
Okay.
I'm glad to hear that.
Well, I interpreted the theme in a very
Uh-huh.
different way.
Oh, this is going to be
But
fun.
it's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay.
First of all, let me ask you, Dan.
Mm.
Are you familiar with the name Tim Follin?
Tim Follin. I can't say that I am.
Okay, so Tim Follin was a composer of video game music, mostly during the 70s. Well, not really the 70s. He was born in 1970. Mostly the 80s.
Okay.
Mostly he was known for NES games and let's see, Game Boy. He did a couple of Game Boy games. He did a couple of Super Nintendo games and some Commodore 64 stuff and a couple of other game consoles and computer stuff. But he mostly worked in the 80s, and then he moved on and did other things. He actually formed a company with some people, and they produce short films and like commercials and stuff like that. That's what they do now.
Okay.
But Tim Follin was a madman when it came to composing video game music. So much so that there is a running joke amongst the community of enthusiasts of video game music and older gamers like myself. Tim Follin did the soundtrack to the NES game for Pictionary. And the running joke is, Jesus, Tim, it's just Pictionary. So there's one particular piece of his that is my absolute favorite, and that's what I'm going to present to you today. But before we get there, I would like to share a little bit of Tim Follin, including the Pictionary song, just so you get an idea of what you're in for. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so this, first of all, also keep in mind that he was composing music on a chipset that was able to produce 5 sounds simultaneously, one of which was just noise. So the percussion is 1. So everything you're hearing, you can only hear 4 tones simultaneously.
All right.
Okay. So this was a little weird unknown game called Treasure Master. I don't even remember this game at all, which is surprising. But this was the title theme to that.
I dig it.
So he managed to program this music, not using like an actual instrument, but like programming it onto a chipset to create these incredibly groovy pieces of music that nothing that was on any game sounded anything like this. This was completely unique. But he goes in, he does like complete fills. He has this section right here ends in such a cool way. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Don't hate me when I say this, but the first thing that popped into my mind was remembering the old Buck Rogers TV show and that little silver robot just dancing around.
Yeah, no, that's not an insult.
I'm kind of like, okay.
So this is what he did for Pictionary. A game about drawing and guessing what people drew.
I can already see why, because it sounds like it's a car chase.
So, Pictionary, all right? That's Pictionary. Tim,
Pictionary.
It's just Pictionary. Anyway, so
I'm kind of marveling at like how they're able. I don't know anything about game programming or anything like that, but I mean, how they do this with
nothing, with
just
practically
chipsets.
Nothing. Yeah, this little chipset that can produce 4 tones and 1 noise tone at the same time, and he made stuff like this. Not all games had stuff like this. Like some games had pretty crap soundtracks, or even though they were great soundtracks, you could tell they were very limited by the chipset. Tim found a way to make it sound like he was composing for a full orchestra using just those 4 tones, which is insane.
Yeah, that is.
Doing a lot with a little, just based on my theme.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let me set the stage before we get to the actual song that I wanted to present. So picture it. It's 1980 something, 87, 88, maybe 89. Little young me is getting out of school on Friday. We had a ritual. My dad would pick me up. On the way home, we would stop at the Plaza del Rienzi. I even remember the name of the strip mall, right? The Plaza del Rienzi. And in the plaza, they had a Blockbuster Video. and they had a Little Caesars pizza. This is back when Little Caesars was actually good, or maybe I've just learned my lesson since then. I don't know. But we used to get Little Caesars, and we used to get Blockbuster. We used to go to Blockbuster, and we would pick out a couple of movies for the weekend. And I always got to rent a game because Blockbuster game rentals were 7 days, so I'd have a game for the whole week. And that's how a lot of my early NES gaming was just, rentals every Friday, right?
Yeah.
So one time I rented a game called Solstice. Now, in this game, it's an isometric puzzle adventure game where you have to figure out how to traverse rooms. You have to find items and bring them other places so you can unlock doors. It's very much and it felt really complex at the time, but it's actually incredibly simple by today's standards. There are people that speedrun this game because it is incredibly difficult. So it's an achievement to be able to beat it, much less to speedrun it. But I wanted to have this image in your head. So if you're looking at the image on your screen that I'm sharing with you right now, this was the cover art for the game. Well, look at this wizard.
He's kind of stacked.
He is very stacked. And and I want you to just keep this wizard's image in your head, because I'm wondering if when they created this cover art, did it come before the soundtrack and they sent it to Tim, said, this is what we want you to write the music for? Or did they hear Tim's song and then design this cover based on the music that Tim Follin wrote? Because it could go either way. So just picture it. Me getting home, I plug this into my Nintendo. I'm super excited. Get a new game to play for a week. And this opening song comes on, and my little 14 or 15-year-old mind is blown into pieces. All right. This is the theme to Solstice by Tim Follin.
Okay.
So there's a very good chance that my love of bands like Dream Theater and Rush and Yes all may stem from the soundtrack to this game.
Because it does. I mean, there is that element of prog rock kind of thing going here.
Absolutely.
Which is kind of cool. Yeah, I dig it.
It leans more into it in a little while too, so check it out.
Okay. I keep hearing like little bits and pieces of like the Doctor Who theme for some reason.
The Doctor Who theme? That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I hadn't noticed that before. Let me back it up a little bit.
Sure.
Are you talking about like the classic, like the Doctor?
Yeah, exactly. And there's a couple of flourishes that I remember hearing in there where I could hear like the piece going da 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 da. And I don't know why it just made me think Doctor Who.
Okay.
Weird.
Let's see.
Oh, that's cool.
And the next thing I really love is this next section right after this. They take this same structure and then they shift it down into a different key and they make it minor. And it just completely changes the whole tone, but it's the exact same melody. Yeah, so that's what plays when you turn the game on. So I was just transfixed, I was staring at my screen and I let it play like 3 times in a row before I actually started the game. It's like that song is insane. I've never heard a video game have a song like that before.
That's crazy, and I'm still kind of marveling at how he's able to do this with such a limited instrumentation, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I mean, can I presume this guy was musically trained?
I don't know. I could look it up and find out. According to Wikipedia, as a child, Follin had no significant music training. He left Liverpool's Sandown Music College after 1 year of study, and he began his career at age 15 working at Insight Studios, composing music for video games.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So no, he's just naturally gifted.
Damn.
There's some people that just hear it, man. They hear the music in the universe, and they can transmute that onto paper. Some of us we just appreciate it. We can't really hear it, but we certainly appreciate it.
I mean, it's weird because I can hear it and I can understand it. I sense the key changes and all of that's going on. But if you ask me to try and put that down onto paper, I'd be like, huh?
Yeah. Musicians blow my mind.
They do, mine too. I'm amazed by what they're able to do. But I'm so thankful that there are people out there that will sit there and take the time to kind of like examine these pieces and break them down for you, and you can just kind of sit there and be like, wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyhow, I love it. But that's a great piece. I love that. That's amazing. It's dig fun. That.
But you see what I mean? Looking at that wizard, like, that's the perfect theme song for that wizard.
Oh, yeah. That works out for that stacked wizard.
This was fun, Dan. We should totally do this a bit more frequently now. That
I think
we have
so.
A better idea of how to do the format.
Yeah, and it's fun to sit here and just kind of like geek out over this stuff,
Just geek out about music, like we do all the time. We're just filming ourselves doing it this time.
Yeah, this time around, because usually it's like in the car or something like, oh, did you hear
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. We really appreciate you. Make sure you click like and subscribe before you leave, and I'll see you guys next time. Dan, thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing that great piece of music. I'm definitely going to add that to my collection.
It's my pleasure. I love to hang out with you any way I can.